Groundhog, groundhog, what makes your back so brown? I've been living in the ground so down.
The song is Groundhog, and the voice is that of America's newest and most provocative folk singer, Buffy Sainte-Marie. What is your name, please?
My name is Buffy Sainte-Marie.
My name is Buffy Sainte-Marie.
My name is Buffy Sainte-Marie.
Only one of these young ladies is the real Buffy Sainte-Marie. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, and Kitty Carlisle on To Tell the Truth. To Tell the Truth is brought to you this evening by a new chiffon, the soft margarine, so soft it comes in a tub. New chiffon margarine. And now, here's your host, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good evening, panel.
Good evening, Bud.
Everyone is well and happy, I trust. You look it anyway. In front of you, you'll find an envelope. You may open that one that's marked number 1 and follow along with me, if you will, in this first story. I, Buffy Sainte-Marie, am a folk singer. I sing all kinds of songs, blues, ragtime, and country and western. I write most of the songs myself. I have been singing professionally for 3 years, both here and abroad, and have made 3 record albums. I taught myself to play the guitar, which I tune in 32 different chord patterns. This, along with my unique system of fingering, gives my music a rather unusual sound. I also play an instrument used by primitive people all over the world, including the American Indian. It is made out of a long stick with a wire attached to both ends and is called a mouth bow. Incidentally, I myself am of Indian ancestry. Signed, Buffy Sainte-Marie. These 3 young ladies, as you heard, all claim to be Buffy Sainte-Marie, and we'll start the questioning with Orson Bean. Orson?
Thank you. Number 2, what ancestry are you? From what tribe?
Apache.
And number 3, is that true of you too?
I'm from the Cree Indian tribe.
The Cree, and number 1, which of you?
The Cree.
I have, there's a man I admire greatly, an American Indian actor named Jay Silverheels. Do you know him, number 1? Do you know of him?
Yes.
What does he play?
Tonto.
Jay Silverheels married an Italian girl. He once said that he did it to pay back Columbus. Number 3. Number 3, there are not a great many Indian singers. I mean, I know of Indian actors and Indian dancers. Are there any other American Indian singers that you know?
Singers?
Yeah.
Yes, there's Peter Lafarge, who is also an Indian folk singer.
Oh, I didn't know he was Indian, is he?
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 2, can you tell me about the mouth bow? How is it played?
It's a long stick that has a string to it, and you place it up against your mouth, and you pluck at it, and by moving the cavity of the inside of your mouth, you get different tones.
Thank you. Number 1, do you have any musical training?
No.
It's all by ear that you
Yes.
play. Number 3, what started you doing this kind of composing?
I was very interested in music as a child.
Do you have musical training?
No.
Number 2, what is the burden of most of your songs? Are they songs of protest? Number 2?
Sorry, Kitty. Tom Poston.
Well, I have a very dear friend in this field, sort of, or an entertainer anyway. His name is Clarence Cooper. Clarence Cooper. Number 1, do you know what group he plays with or performs with?
No.
Clarence Cooper? Well, it's the Terriers, and he's a sensational guy. Number 2, do you happen to know if there is a performer named Groundhog?
Performer? No.
Yeah, well, there is. Nipsey Russell introduced me to a great tap dancer named Groundhog. Number 3, what form is the blues musically?
It is basically an old jazz. An old jazz. It's folk jazz.
Well, number 1, what form? Thank you.
Peggy Cass.
Number 3, where does Joan Baez live?
She lives in California now.
Thank you. Number 1, where are you from?
Massachusetts.
Number 2, where are you from?
New Mexico.
And 3?
Canada originally.
Canada originally, and then when did you move to the United States?
Well, I was adopted when I was about 4 months old.
And were you brought to the United States then?
Yes,
Where?
to New York.
Thank you very much. Number one, which company do you record for?
Vanguard Records.
Thank you.
That's it. Time for you to mark your wigwams. Mark your ballots at once, if you will, please, without change, without any consultation. Just vote now, please. Vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. And our team of challengers will receive $250 for every incorrect vote. All ballots marked? All right, Tom, for whom did you vote?
Well, I voted for number 1. I thought that her voice sounded as much like the voice on the record as any of them, and she looks like she might be a very sensitive folk singer.
Peggy.
Well, I voted for number 1. I've heard of Miss Sainte-Marie before. I'm from Massachusetts, and I know that the real one is from Massachusetts. That's why I kept asking you where you were all from.
Ah. And Orson B.
Well, on the basis of Tom's sensitive questioning about groundhog,
You don't know Groundhog, the tap dancer? The great tap dancer.
you're thinking of Moondog. I voted for number 3 because it seems to me that I read that Miss Sainte-Marie was from Canada and was adopted, or maybe I have the story...
Then to Massachusetts.
Then to Massachusetts.
Yes.
Everything is from Massachusetts.
How many feathers does your number 3 have?
It's a war bonnet.
It's a war bonnet. Kitty, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 1. I think they always look as though they could be very sensitive folk singers. But by the way she stood on the platform, I thought maybe it was number 1.
Very well, there we have it, with 3 voting for number 1 and 1 voting for number 3, war bonnet and all. Let's find out now which of these 3 young ladies, in truth, is Buffy Sainte-Marie. Will the real Buffy Sainte-Marie please stand up? I'm sure, Buffy, that most of us, at least I can speak for myself, that have never heard a mouth bow. Would you give us an idea what one sounds like?
We say it is a primitive instrument found all over the world and among Indian tribes. We play it by using a plastic pick on a steel string now, although fiber strings used to be used, by bending the bow and by changing the cavity of your mouth to get a sound like this. I got a gal at the head of the creek and I'm going up to see her about 2 times a week. Kiss her in the mouth, sweet as any wine, wrap herself around me like a sweet day divine.
Now, Buffy, would you sing one of your own songs for us, one that you wrote?
This is a song I wrote. It's a love song, and it's called Until It's Time for You to Go. You're not a dream, you're not an angel, you're a man. I'm not a queen, I'm a woman, take my hand. We'll make a space in the lives that we'd planned, and here we'll stay until it's time for you to go. Yes, we're different, worlds apart, we're not the same. We laughed and played at the start like in a game. Could have stayed outside my heart, but in you came. And here you'll stay until it's time for you to go. Don't ask why. Don't ask how. Don't ask forever. Love me now. This love of mine had no beginning, it has no end. I was an oak, now I'm a willow, now I can bend. And though I'll never in my life see you again. Still I'll stay until it's time for you to go.
It's interesting, but the simple and understandable is always the most beautiful, isn't
Yes.
it? Yes. Perfectly beautiful. Thank you very much. Number 2, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Trudy Tenaya Torres, and I'm a secretary for the Rivers Theatrical Agency.
And number 3, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Vicky Racimo, and I'm a freelance photographer.
Well, in taking the score, we find that the panel did rather well, almost too well, but there still was one incorrect vote, and that's worth a solid $250. Ladies, thank you very much for sharing your evening with us and giving us a taste and the sound of so much beauty. Good night, and God bless you. And now let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Norma Bidwell.
My name is Norma Bidwell.
My name is Norma Bidwell.
Follow along with your copies of this one, if you will, please, panel, and be fascinated. I, Norma Bidwell, am food editor for a local newspaper. Last summer, I decided to move out of the kitchen onto the open road and experiment with cooking in a unique way by using the motor of the family car as a stove. I've had a few disastrous failures, but now I have developed a surefire technique of under-the-hood cooking. Here are 2 simple rules. Be sure whatever you cook is placed on the engine's exhaust manifold, and most important, never stop the car while you're cooking except to turn the meat. The recipes are easy to follow. Just wrap everything in foil and time it by miles instead of minutes. Barbecued beef patties are done to a turn in 75 miles. Rare roast beef takes 200 miles, but if you like it well done, you'll have to drive an additional 50. A tasty stew can be cooked on a trip from New York to Boston. The preparation of under-the-hood meals has come to be known as cooking a go-go. I'm Norma Bidwell. Panel, these 3 ladies all claim to be Norma Bidwell. We'll start the cross-examination with Peggy Cass. Peggy?
Thank you, but well, number 3, just to open us, what is the exhaust manifold? Where is it on my car?
Under the hood.
Oh. Well, I mean, is it like a shelf so that you can put the meat right on it? Is that the idea?
It's kind of mushroom-shaped.
Oh, I'll have to look for it. Number 2, what happens if you're making a stew and you stop short? What happens? You must get an awful lot of glop on your engine.
You can't stop. You have to do continuous driving or it won't cook.
Well, what happens when you go through a red light at your madcap steaming pace?
Well, that's all right, but you could stop for a visit or anything.
I see. Well, number 1, can you make a baked potato whittle?
Oh, horse and bean.
Number 1, dear. Now, I've heard everything now.
You thought you had.
I thought I had, yeah. Now, suppose you made a delicious omelet and you serve it to somebody and they're eating it. What's that funny taste? Wouldn't it taste like carbon monoxide a little bit?
No, you wrap it up.
Yeah, but you gotta unwrap it sometime, dear.
You take it out from under the hood.
What?
You take it out and put it on the table.
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. Would you eat in the garage with this kind of a system?
Well, if you're hungry enough when you ended the trip, I guess.
Yeah. All right. It's good for picnics.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 2, how did this thing ever come to you?
I read a story on CP about an Army chef that had tried it.
I see.
And I decided to try it and write a story for the paper about it.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Number 1, would it not be possible if you stopped for any important reason just to keep your motor going? And wouldn't it cook just the same if you weren't moving?
Well, if you didn't stop too long, but the manifold's not that hot if you're not, so the pistons aren't working.
Excuse me. Terribly sorry. Number 3, there's nothing in the back of the car that you could use to cook with.
I don't think there's any heat back there.
Uh-huh. Number 2, when you do cook...
Tom Poston, excuse me.
Thank you, Bud. Number 2, why is the exhaust manifold hotter than any other part of the car?
I don't know. I just looked around and I found the spot that got hot and stuffed it in there.
Yeah, if a cop ever stopped you for speeding, you could really give him a... How dare you? You're ruining my dinner. Number 1, what does that manifold look like under the car? Now, how am I going to find it if I open up the hood of my automobile?
Well, the first thing you find is the air intake, and under that is the exhaust manifold. Now, in some cars, it's on one place and some the other. It's not always the same place.
That's it. Time for you now to mark your ballot. And without eating, please, and without consulting, just simply vote now. Don't change your vote once you've marked it. Vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. All ballots are marked. Very well. Tom, for whom did you vote?
Well, I voted for number 2, Bud. I think she looks like she would enjoy cooking on the manifold of a car. I wonder how long it takes to make the...
Peggy.
Well, I voted for number 2 because she looks so horrified about stopping and getting the stew and the spark plugs.
Orson B.
Well, I voted for number 1. I think she looks a little nutty, and, but sweet, you know. And she has a spot of succotash, huh? No, that's...
What have you got cooking on top of your number 1?
Swiss chard.
For number 2, because she not only looks as though she might be able to do that kind of cooking, but she would write a book about it.
Very well, there we have it. Again, with the votes all in and the minds made up and the reasons given. Let's find out which of these 3 ladies, in truth, is Norma Bidwell. Will the real Norma Bidwell please stand up? Just to keep the record straight, Norma Bidwell is food editor for the Hamilton Spectator in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Billy Ryan, and I'm with Olston's Incorporated. We supply temporary help.
Thank you. And number 3, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Jean Courtney, and I'm a nightclub singing comedian.
So the score checks out exactly as it did in the first round tonight. Panel's getting in a rut. A good one for them and not so good a one for you, but still there was one incorrect vote, and that's worth $250. And our sincere thanks to you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the visit. Goodbye, and God bless you. Let's meet our 3rd team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Robert Surface. My name is Robert Surface. My name is Robert Surface.
Follow along with your copies of this one, too, if you will, panel. I, Robert Surface, a former officer in the United States Navy, am now the captain of a unique 50-foot underwater craft called the Illuminaut. The Illuminaut is a highly maneuverable submarine with a cruising radius of 100 miles at a depth of some 15,000 feet, about 2.5 miles deeper than any Navy submarine has ever ventured. While the Illuminaut was built as a compact deep-sea research laboratory, it is well suited for salvage and emergency work since it is being fitted with 2 long metal hands that are strong enough to lift 400 pounds each and at the same time sensitive enough to pick up a pencil. Secretary of the Navy, Paul Nitze, has hailed the Illuminaut as one of the most remarkable seagoing vessels ever constructed. Signed, Robert Surface. Gentlemen all claim to be Robert Surface. We'll start with Tom Poston. Tom?
Thank you, Bud. I'm very curious, like number 3, has this ever happened on your boat when you give a command to dive and somebody calls you and they go back up again because your name is Surface? Wait, let me put the question another way. Number 2, what is the principle by which craft with a crushable hull can go down to such depths without endangering the people inside?
A lot of it depends on the thickness of the hull and the compression you have from within, the external force.
Well, number 1, how do you equalize it? Oh.
Peggy Cass.
You're number 2. When you were in the United States Navy, were you in the submarine service?
Yes, ma'am.
And number 3, You know those hands? Do they operate the way those cranes do that you pick the toys out of the candy machine? Is that the idea?
They're similar to that, yes.
Oh, well, number one, is this going to be used mainly for salvage?
No, ma'am. This is just one of the aspects. It's going to be used mostly for investigation of underwater terrain and marine geology and that sort of thing.
Hey, number two, who owns it?
Reynolds International.
Thank you. Is it made out of aluminum? 3? I can't say linoleum either.
Orson Bean.
Number 3, is it made out of aluminium?
It's made out of Reynolds aluminum.
Of course, number 3. All right, number 1. Now, it says here that it's strong enough to pick up 400 pounds and sensitive enough to pick up a pencil. Did you have to build a 400-pound pencil to test this thing?
No, sir, but we actually have tested it.
What? All these miles now, what could you pick up that would weigh 400 or 800 pounds?
Something of that size would be more of a salvage object than anything else.
Oh, no great shocking denizens of the deep.
Haven't seen any yet, no, sir.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 2, how many men are aboard this craft?
Usually a complement of 6.
Thank you. Number 3, under whose aegis is the submarine arm of the Navy?
This submarine is not associated with the Navy.
No, but in general, who is in charge of the submarine part of the Navy?
The Chief of Naval Operations is in charge of all Navy ships.
And who is that?
At the present time, that's Admiral McDonald.
Thank you. Number 1, how deep is the continental shelf?
Continental shelf is 3 miles.
3 miles deep? Or 3 miles out to sea?
3 miles out.
But how deep is it in terms of water?
I would say that it would vary.
Very
no
deep.
set
Number
depth.
2, what is the deepest part
That's all
of
the
ocean?
time we have, I'm sorry to say. There's a lot to be found out and not quite enough time to find it, but with what you have discovered, mark your ballots, if you will, please, panel. Mark them at once, without change, without any consultation. Just vote. Vote for number 1, or vote for number 2, or vote for number 3. All ballots marked. Very well. Tom, for whom did you vote this time?
Well, that great question of Kitty's kind of unnerved me. I hope it unnerved him, but I hope even more that Admiral McDonald really is in charge of naval operations. I'll vote for number 3.
Peggy.
Well, see, they all seem very salty, because he said Chief of Naval Operations, number 2 said ship's complement, but number 1 called me ma'am. And all of us were
Orson Bean.
Well, number 3 kind of fumbled around about McDonald, and I hope he's right. I don't know. But he was so hot to give a plug to his company that I figured it has to be number 3.
A submarine 3.
Yes.
A threemonaut.
A threemonaut, yeah.
Kitty.
I voted for number 3 because I believe the continental shelf is 3 miles out to sea, but I think it's very shallow, like 75 feet, because the watercolor changes when you get beyond it, so I voted for number 3.
So that gives us 3 for number 3, 1 for number 1. All right, we'll go for the truth for that and see what happens. Will the real Robert Surface please stand up? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You're getting in a rut, believe me. You're 3 to 1, right straight along here tonight.
Thank you.
Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Robert Kokens, and I'm the Director of National Sales for Lowenbrow Beer.
And number 2, what is your real name and what do you do, sir?
My name is Drew Fraser. I'm with Viking Sauna, the sales manager, and we sell sauna baths.
Thank you. In checking the score, we find that for the 3rd time tonight, the panel duplicated their voting feat of each other time before. So there were 3 correct and 1 incorrect, but that's still worth $250 to you. And we thank you very much for sharing this evening with us. Goodbye. God bless you. Time for tonight, but you made it a happy one as you always do. Good night, panel.
Good night,
Good night,
Bud.
Bud.
Good night to all of you. Of course, join us the same time next week, and I'll see you tomorrow afternoon on the daytime show. But in the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth. Night.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Podman production. Johnny Olson speaking. Tonight's program was pre-recorded.
Lassie joins Art Linkletter and his human guests, Jim Gomer Pyle Neighbors, my favorite Martian Ray Walston, and beautiful Jill St. John on Hollywood Talent Scouts later tonight in color. Tape Part 2 of the CBS News National Health Test tomorrow at 10, 9 Central Time on CBS.
To Tell the Truth has been brought to you tonight by new Polident tablets, the powerful new denture cleanser tablets to keep your breath fresh, keep your smile bright and natural.